a little side note question, because you brought up the Māori Health Authority. As you're saying, Māori didn't cede sovereignty, i.e. Māori have and I sometimes think about, and I don't mean to belittle it or take it too kind of lightly, but the treaty as being a contract. Like if we talk about like contract law, that seems to be an easier way for some people to understand it. Now, if I'm wrong, correct me, but if the contract says Māori have the right to determine their own path and their own sovereignty, does that therefore mean the cancelling of the Māori Health Authority is in breach of that contract, in breach of the treaty, in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, that's a very plain way of putting it, and absolutely the cancelling of the Māori Authority is a breach of the treaty, and there's no doubt that a claim to the tribunal that claims that is going to win, if we still have a tribunal to claim to. So that's really where the problem might lie, is that we may no longer have anywhere to go in terms of a system that will hear us and our vision and our if the tribunal is removed or tinkered with in some way, shape or form, that would be an absolute disaster from my point of view. The tribunal has spent 40 years in the pursuit of analysing all of the claims that have been brought before it. These people are smart. These are some of the sharpest minds in the country, and with a range of backgrounds and experience. So you don't just have a judge like you might in the mainstream system who's got a background in commercial law or something along those lines. You've got a judge, you've got an expert in tikanga Māori, you've got historian members, you've got all sorts of skills and knowledge amongst them, and even the mainstream court system will defer to the tribunal and its findings, both findings of fact and often look to its recommendations in relation to where the justice might sit on a particular issue.
Right.
If it is raised in such a way that the mainstream court system has to consider that, or should consider that they do. So they are considered the experts, and they're not just the experts in a national sense, they're the experts in an international sense in relation to how you reconcile and provide for Indigenous rights in a colonised system. And they've, many of the principles of the treaty that have been articulated by the Waitangi Tribunal have been adopted by, the United Nations, for example, in relation to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People.
Yep.
And, there's been lots of borrowing from the New Zealand example in international arenas. So the tribunal is an amazing forum, and let's not forget that they are not only some of the sharpest minds in the country, but they go through an inquiry, a really thorough inquiry process. So the Crown is represented always. They turn up with all of their, lawyers and all of their witnesses that, also astute, bright people, and they examine on a very, very, minute detail type of thorough basis. And that's why it takes so long. It simply takes so long because there is literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pages of material to get through, hundreds and hundreds of witnesses to get through. The forum is open, so anybody can turn up and listen to, how it's conducted. Anybody can access the information if they want to online. So, it's a very transparent and thorough process. To knock, often the tribunal reports, because their findings are mostly recommendatory and they aren't binding on any government, often the reports get shelved and, often they don't go further. But the Māori Health Authority was, directly related to putting into place recommendations made by the Waitangi Tribunal on the state of the health system and how the health system was not delivering for Māori. in terms of outcomes and what could be done instead. So going down into the tax and the nuts and bolts of how does it get funded, how does the mainstream system get funded, can a different way of that happening actually achieve better results? And overwhelmingly, all of the health experts that rolled into that inquiry to give evidence, the vast majority were in support of Māori being able to determine the best way forward, because Māori health practitioners know what works and what doesn't. So that's how we ended up with a very concerted effort by the last government to actually implement the recommendation of the tribunal through that health authority.